Well, another U.S. priority draft and a Western Hockey League prospects draft has come and gone, and the Seattle Thunderbirds added a total of 12 prospects to their pool combined between the two drafts that took place last week. And to talk about it, we're going to bring in the T-Birds Director of Player Personnel, Craig Goebel. Craig, it's been a busy, I'm sure, last week for you and your staff, but the work has been done, and now we have a whole group of new young players to add to the prospects pool.
Yeah, it's been a long stretch, actually, the last couple months. There was a ton of events that went on, and so we were at all of them. So even to the extent that Bill and I made a trip down to Philadelphia to catch a lot of the U.S. prospects just before the draft. So yeah, we've been on the road, and but I think it was a good exercise for sure.
Well, let's kind of recap it, the way it unfolded. The Western Hockey, again, first went up with the expansion draft. We just want to touch on that quickly. And I guess the question is, how important was it for the Thunderbirds to be able to make the trade with Penticton, which got them a fourth-round draft pick back, and send them a prospect who was not on the current roster, to keep that group, in particular that 07 group, together without having to deal one of them away? How important was that to the organization?
Well, I think that it's something that we really took seriously, in terms of that we didn't want to lose anybody off of our current roster. And so in order for us to swing a trade with Penticton to be able to keep all our guys was very important. So, shipping off Diego Johnson, who wanted to be in Canada, wanted kind of to be in the West. It made a lot of sense for both teams, and again, able to keep our roster at what it was.
Then after the expansion draft that evening, we had the Western Hockey League draft first round, the prospects draft, and you had the 21st overall pick. And it's been a while since Seattle's had a late pick like that. You would have thought maybe back in 2017 when they had won the league title, they'd have a late, but I think Seattle was maybe fourth or fifth to the back of the end of the draft that year. I think they got Peyton Mount, I think 17th overall. And I think the last time they drafted this late, they had a 20th pick in the first round. It was by a trade with Portland. They got Keegan Colasar back in 2012. This pick that you had, 21st overall, would have been 20th, but with Penticton coming in the league, it got pushed back one spot. This is a result of the trade that sent Sawyer Minio to Calgary. This is one of the first round picks. You got two of them back, and this is the pick that you used to make your first selection in the draft. And you picked a young man out of Alberta, Brooke Hale. So tell us a little bit about Seattle's first round pick. What makes him fit that T-Bird mold and the boxes that he checks that fit the T-Bird identity?
Well, first off with Brooke, he had a great season. One of the top point producers from the D position all year in Western Canada. So that's exciting. But the thing that steps off the page right away is his skating ability. He's a phenomenal skater, just forwards, backwards, great mobility. And then top it off that he is got a real good sense offensively for the game. He makes quality passes. He can skate the puck out of trouble, like I say, with his skating ability. He's got a great shot from the point. He can get the puck through. I've seen him in Alberta provincials and scored 5 goals in 5 games. So kind of, pretty good stats for a defenseman. So yeah, that's really drew us to him, especially the skating part of it. And we think he's going to run our power play in a few years. It always takes these kids a couple of years to get, acclimatized to the situation. But we think we got a potential top pairing defenseman here.
Well, then the next day began with the U.S. priority draft, and that's a 2-round draft, and you had 2 picks. And your first pick, I know a lot of fans were saying, how does Seattle pick a guy who's born out east, I think in Pennsylvania, in Cruz Armstrong. But there's a reason for that. His dad, an NHL veteran, but also a Western Hockey League veteran. So he played in the WHL, I think primarily with Red Deer. Colby Armstrong, this kind of makes him a legacy pick. You can pick those guys if they have desire to come and play in the league that their father played in. And so you picked Cruz Armstrong with your first pick in the U.S. priority draft.
Yeah, Cruz was a real solid pick for us. We think he's a real good two-way winger. He's gonna grow. He's gonna be a big kid. His skating will only continue to get better as he gets some muscle. So we're really happy to get Cruz. He wants to play in the league. Sounded very excited when we talked to him. Wants to be a Thunderbird. So it really made a lot of sense for us down that road.
And then with the second pick in the U.S. priority draft, you went back to some place that you were last year when you selected, and that is Dallas Stars Elite 14U. Ewan Willers was your first pick last year. He's already a signed player. He's in the T-Bird system, and you picked Beckett Ertl.
Yeah, Beckett. I talk about the trip down to Philadelphia, and we've seen Beckett earlier in the year, but we also seen him down in the Philadelphia tournament. And the one thing about Beckett is he got a high IQ, makes skilled plays. Made a pass right in front of us that we didn't even see coming, but he's seen it down there, and so those are the types of plays. He's a skilled player. He skates real well. He's got sense. And he's interested in coming to the league. So it made a lot of sense for us to go down that road.
So then it was back to the Western Hockey League prospects draft and the second round pick. Again, I believe this came from that deal. You didn't originally have a second round pick, so that's why it comes late in the second round. And you pick a center, Kane Nicholas. In fact, your second and third round picks both listed as centers. The third round pick was Dylan Sherbin. Is this a case where, they're listed at centers, but that may not be where they stick? Maybe they will play as a wing in the Western Hockey League. What do you look at to keep a player at a certain position when you're talking up the forwards, whether they're going to play center or you're going to play on the wing?
I think that for the young guys, it is a transition. Center is such a demanding position. There's a lot of responsibilities, and sometimes when these kids come in, we even seen Brock England come in, and although he was only 15, but he played some wing and just a little less responsibility, and so easier to maybe break into the league. Ideally, we want to keep these guys in the positions that they want to play in. I've seen Dylan Sherbin play a lot of wing over the course of the year. But then in Alberta Cup, he was playing center quite a bit, and he did a really good job there. But we'll make that call as the kind of the years progress, and we see where they best fit. I think ideally we want to put them in a position where they're going to succeed. And like I said, if it requires them maybe to play on the wing, then that's where we'll go with them. But we're gonna test them out, and we're gonna see even where they play U18 this coming year. Maybe they switch positions and they're more accustomed or more suited to play those positions. So yeah, there's always a little bit of jockeying around. It's not always an exact science, but we think that if we can start them on the wing and move them to center, maybe as they get to 17, 18, there's that possibility as well.
Two picks in the fourth round, and both used on defensemen, one a left shot, one a right shot defenseman. And I normally don't put too much stock in the height and weights of these guys because they're only 14, 15 years old. They're going to grow. But I'm wondering if the first of those two picks is going to grow anymore, if you're going to have a uniform big enough for Carter McKenzie. He's listed already at 6'7", 207. People say, well, maybe it's Matt Rempe 2.0. But I think of a guy like who's currently on our roster, a couple of guys in Cumby and Mertka who are that size, who play defense. Is that some, he can model his game after those two guys?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. I think, it makes scouting easy when you don't have to guess if they're going to grow or not. Carter's already that size, like you said, but he's got a lot of good good traits, good intangibles. For a big guy, he skates quite well. He uses his stick well. He's a really good passer. We like the sense on him. So it's just a matter of, getting a little bit of meat on those bones, but he's got some T-Bird traits as well. He plays it hard. So yeah, we were excited about getting Carter. We think he's going to fit in really well, and those are the guys that he can look up to. And when I watched him, I went back to the days of my coaching when I coached Colton Pareko back when he was 11, 12 years old. And he hadn't grown as big as Carter has, but at the end of the day, same type size, and there's a lot of similarities there.
And the other defenseman you picked in the fourth round was Jackson Beggs. You had two more picks in the fifth round as well. Brady Lutmerding and Chase Leonard, one a wing, one a defenseman. Talk a little bit about these two picks.
Yeah, Brady is a guy that, again, we watched all year, and the one thing that I kept going back to every time I watched him and noted that he plays like a Thunderbird. He competes hard. He's a real good skater. He's got a great base. Think he creates offense, not through his skill so much, but just his hard work. He's good on the forecheck. He finishes his checks. So we think there's a lot of Thunderbird traits in him, and feel like he's going to be a contributor down the road. And then Chase, again, a good two-way defender, skates well. He can lead a rush. He can defend real well. It's just a matter of him having a good year at U18 and continue rounding out his game.
Once again, we go to round 6 and two more picks in the sixth round for the T-Birds. The first of the, or I should say the third pick of the fifth round. We don't want to miss the one guy who doesn't play either defense or wing or center. He plays goal, and that's Kelvin Gamlin. Is it important to get a goalie in the draft each year?
Yeah, we think so. We just want to keep that those ages going every year, because again, goalies are a little bit different in terms of their progression. Depending on where they play. If they play at a really good, a top end program, well, maybe they don't get as many shots as, say, someone that plays at a low, a lesser team. So that goalie might get a lot of shots. So his development might be a little bit quicker than the fellow that plays it on a high octane team, for instance. So there's so many different factors with goalies, but yeah. So I think it's important that we get a goalie each draft and let them develop. They might be sitting there for a couple, 3 years, but pop in at 18 and pretty soon they're a starter. Calvin didn't get a lot of looks. He played in a small program in Alberta. We had a couple viewings of him, but he's a big kid already. He's close to 6'2" already, moves real well, reads the play really well. So again, there's a kid who just needs some time, and we think, we're not in a rush for him. He's 2 years away anyway, so it's a good pick for us.
And when you say you had a couple of viewings of him, would that mean that Brad Guzda, your goaltending coach, maybe had a chance to look at him as well?
Yeah, we lean on Brad a lot for a lot of his viewings are not in person; they're through Instat. But Brad is such a particular goaltending. What he sees. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't have Brad doing most of our goalie, watching and getting his opinion on these guys, because that's certainly none of us on the scouting staff were ex-goalies, and so having Brad's input is very important.
Now on to the sixth round. I alluded to that. Two more picks in round 6. Another winger and a defenseman. I hope I get the name right. Ebenezer Shengaya. And then Jack Parsons was the last pick. He was the defenseman, Shengaya the winger. Just talk about these two sixth-round selections. And we've had some success in the sixth round in the past. I think of a guy named Niko Mijatovic who came out of the sixth round for Seattle.
Yeah, we those are good. Those are picks where you can make some hay and you hope, or you hope your first, second, third rounders play for you and are big contributors. But like you say, we get a guy like Nico who can come in and all of a sudden just turn into a quality player, and that's what we hope with Ebenezer and Jack. Ebenezer's a big, strong kid. He's got a really good frame. He's his skating, I think, was just it's not developed yet. But when he gets a little muscle on him, he's going to be an excellent skater. He's got some good hands. He makes really good plays. And then Jack, find him to be a good two-way defender. I think he projects for us to be a hard guy to play against. He plays physical. He'll kill penalties. So we got a little bit of everything, I think, in this draft.
And how much does the maybe prior draft influence what you're going to pick in an upcoming draft? Like, say, potentially one year you picked a lot of wingers, and so the next draft you say we got to get some defensemen. Does that sway it at all, or is it always about the best player available?
Yeah, you can. I think there's always the thing that they say, taking the best player available. But we think we went into this draft knowing that last year I think we signed 7 forwards out of the draft, and so we did think that maybe we had to lean for our defense a little bit more this year. But it wasn't really hard, especially when Brooke was there, right in our laps. We had to take that one. He was next on our list, and so that was an easy one, really. And then, but the other guys, again, we talk about Jack, we talk about Carter McKenzie, Jackson Beggs. Those guys, again, are all guys that we've had high on our list that we really felt like could develop into real good Western Hockey League defensemen. So, again, they were, I would say they were almost easy picks. When the time came, we felt we wanted those guys, and they ranked ahead of the forwards that we had, so they were easy picks.
Just a couple of final questions. One, obviously, there are a lot of players who did not get selected. These guys we're going to see at camp. Obviously, we know they're coming. But now the work is, sending out invites to the undrafted players, and we've had success. You look at a guy like Jared Davidson, who had a pretty good career here and is now in the Montreal Canadiens system. Matt Rempe, we didn't draft him. He got drafted into the NHL. So there's a lot of guys out there who didn't get drafted who may be looking for that invite to camp.
Yeah, that's kind of what our mission is today, is getting those camp invites out. And we have a list of, we're up around 60. So we're only going to take about 30 max. I think that'll be about the number that we're looking for. But, you got these kids will have other opportunities with other teams. So again, we think our past has really helped us in not only recruiting, but getting some of these kids to camp as well. Like, if they have other choices, we think we're at the top of their list just because of the past that we've, developed players, but we've also had winning teams. And so makes us an attractive destination.
And just lastly, we don't speak their name enough. Obviously, we've talked to Jag Ball, the director of scouting, in the past, but your staff, the scouts, and the work they've done to get to this point, to get these players selected and bring them in, just kind of give them a shout out.
Yeah, I made the comment a couple of weeks ago when we were meeting. I think we were in BC, the BC Cup, and I said the one thing about our staff is none of us think we're too smart. So our conversations are always really good. We help each other out. We don't have big arguments about guys. We're on the same wavelength, which really helps. The management, Bill, obviously, and the coaches help dictate what we're looking for, and we're all on the same page. But yeah, our guys do a wonderful job. Jag is obviously very supportive. Matt and go through them all, Huntsy and Neb and Zach. So, all those guys have put in a lot of work over the winter, especially even at the end of the year when maybe the hockey has died down in their areas, but they're out collecting more information for us from coaches and from parents. And that really helps. It helps make our decisions as we get to the draft.
Well, Craig, thanks for your time. Thanks for all your hard work. Enjoy some downtime, and we will see you at T-Birds training camp.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.